If I could express all the feelings I have right now, we'd be lucky to live by Thanksgiving and I'd go through a case of tissues. To see so many of you, Jew, Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, coming together to mourn the loss of 11 strangers is as meaningful as what Dr. King did on a bigger scale in Washington. Those were my heroes when I was growing up, Bobby Kennedy and Martin Luther King. But Dr. King's dream has not yet come to fruition, that my children will be judged by the content of their character, not by the color of their skin. And that pains me. Today we live in a climate of hate and racism that grows and becomes more virulent environment than at any time during our history. And we, you, me, everyone we come in contact with, must find a way to stop it. This coming together today, I hope, will be a light that will shine on all our people, and once again we can be a beacon for all those who are suffering now at the hands of racists. None of us are free. None of us are free. If you've been one in chains, none of us are free. There are so many that I need to thank for today's program, beginning with Mayor Christensen and Karen Hayes. They have been by my side through this whole planning. I'd also like to thank Marilyn Masters, Barbara Weiner, and the entire sisterhood for their contribution to today's Kiddush. You should wait for the food, definitely. Now I'd like to present as our first speaker, Mayor Gary Christensen.
They say that today's news is tomorrow's history, but that is not the case with what happened in Pittsburgh 2 weeks ago. This heinous act is something that will remain with us for a long time to come. That is why I am so grateful to this congregation and President Paula Sack for bringing us all together this morning to share prayers and messages of hope. It is so important for us as a community to be here, not only to offer our support, but to also stand in solidarity against anti-Semitism and all forms of prejudice and hatred. Because this was not just an attack on the Jewish community, but an attack on all of us and all this great country stands for. I can't help but be reminded that this weekend we will be honoring our veterans who sacrificed their lives to protect, defend, and preserve the ideals that shape our way of life. In fact, this morning at 11 a.m., we will be dedicating a memorial square in honor of Private First Class Jeremiah Kelleher, and then I will be back here to honor our Jewish war veterans with Malden Post 74. The hate-filled attack at the Tree of Life Synagogue strikes at the very core of what they all fought for and believed in. Let us now do our part in making sure that those ideals are never compromised. In the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. I believe that silence is no longer an option. Let us stand together and speak about peace and unity in the face of hate, despite the violence and hatred that is gripping our nation today. Let us stand together in prayer and speak in remembrance of the lives lost and all the families that have been impacted by this senseless tragedy. Let us stand together and step up our work in the fight for human rights. We must speak out loud and clear against racism, anti-Semitism, intolerance, and hate crimes of any nature. And finally, let us stand together to preserve the precious values that our veterans sacrificed for and work together for a better tomorrow. Thank you.
And now I'd like to introduce our State Senator, Jason Lewis.
Good morning, everyone. I was just 7 years old when my grandfather passed away. And one of the great regrets in my life is that I was too young for my grandfather to tell me anything about his parents or his sister. You see, my grandfather, when he was just 19 years old, left Vilnius, Lithuania in the 1930s. The only person that went with him was his younger brother. It's hard for me to imagine the two of them traveling all on their own. Halfway around the world, they ended up in South Africa, where my father was born and I was born. Of course, as you probably know where I'm going with this, my great-grandparents and my great-aunt died in the Holocaust. We owe a great, great debt of gratitude to our veterans, our Jewish veterans, and our veterans of all faiths for so bravely fighting in the Second World War to stop the Nazi oppression and I believe to really save our world and save our values and give us the opportunities that we've all had to live a good life. I had the opportunity recently to visit the New England Holocaust Memorial in Boston, and it's a very moving experience. Some of you probably have visited the U.S. Holocaust Museum in Washington, and maybe some of you have had the opportunity to go to Yad Vashem in Jerusalem. And it's very, very moving. There's a poem that is engraved on one of the panels as you walk through the memorial. And I just wanted to share that with you all today. They came first for the communists, and I didn't speak up because I wasn't a communist. Then they came for the Jews, and I didn't speak up because I wasn't a Jew. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I didn't speak up because I wasn't a trade unionist. Then they came for the Catholics, and I didn't speak up because I was a Protestant. Then they came for me, and by that time, no one was left to speak up. What this poem says to me is that we need to support each other. We need to speak up for each other. We need to love each other, regardless of our ethnic background, our religion, our race, or anything else, any other differences between us. Malden is a wonderfully diverse and welcoming and tolerant community. It's a very special place. Just look around this room and you see people from all different faiths, ethnic backgrounds, races, everything. But it's not something that we can ever take for granted. We all are well aware of the increase in hate speech and horrible acts of violence against, whether that's targeted at Jews or people of other faiths and backgrounds. And the important thing is that we not be passive bystanders. The important thing is that we be upstanders. And what that means is to confront any kind of hate, intolerance, bigotry, anti-Semitism, racism that we see. Confront it, speak up, speak out. That's how we will make sure that the values that we hold so dear here in Malden and in our country, that our veterans have fought so bravely through the years to protect and secure, that we continue to make sure that's the kind of community and country that we live in. Thank you all very much.
And now I'd like to call upon the President of the Malden City Council, Debbie Maria.
Good morning. I look out here and I see so many wonderful faces, so many friends. As many of you might know, I lost my son 11 years ago, and I would like to read a poem that has given me great comfort. It's called The Dash by Linda Ellis. I read of a man who stood to speak at a funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on the tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came the date of birth and spoke the following date with tears. But he said what mattered most of all was the dash between the years. For the dash represents all the time that they spent alive on earth, and now only those who love them know what the little line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love, and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. There are things you'd like to change, for you never know how much time is left that still can be rearranged. If we could slow down enough to consider what's true and real, and always try to understand the way other people feel, and be less quick to anger and show appreciation more, and love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect and more often wear a smile, remembering this special dash might only last a while. So when your eulogy is being read, with your life actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they say about how you spent your dash? So I also at this point I'm so honored to be here today, and I am joined by fellow counselors that I would like to say I'm so grateful they are here with us today. Neil Anderson, Ward 7, Steve Winslow, Counselor at Large, and two of my great pals from school committee, Len Iavino and Joan Ferriero. Thank you to the vets. My dad was a vet. Thank you for this opportunity this morning to speak. God be with us all. Thank you.
And now it's my pleasure to introduce the Temple's cantorial soloist, Phyllis Worland, who will lead us in song.
I've chosen to sing the 23rd Psalm in Hebrew. It's a contemporary composition. I think the English, which we probably all know, is in the pamphlet also. Adonai roi lo echsa binot desheya b'tzeini al menuchot al menuchot ina
I would like to introduce Lori now, who will be speaking for the community. Alyssa, who will be speaking for Lori, who will be speaking for the community. And then we'll come out and talk. But we eat first.
So 2 years ago, I was able to go on a trip to Israel, and a group of us got together and we were just talking about the events that happened 2 weeks ago. So, to the community that has suffered as a result of Saturday's events, know that I stand with you. Know that I pray with you. Know that my heart is with your community, and I am in pain from this terrible loss. To Joyce Steinberg, Richard Gottfried, Rose Malinger, Jared Rabinowitz, Cesar Rosenthal, David Rosenthal, Bernice Simon, Sylvan Simon, Daniel Stein, Melvin Wax, and Irving Younger. Know that the entire Jewish community mourns your loss. By virtue of being yourselves, you had an impact on the Jewish community, and we will remember you today and for many days to come. Know that you do not die in vain. Know that you will be remembered as who you are and not as a result of the events that transpired. To the families that are now suffering, know that the Jewish communities grieve with you. Know that you are not alone in this terrible time. Know that you are supported and loved by millions of people around the world. To the police officers and all first responders, thank you for all that you did for the Pittsburgh Synagogue. Thank you for doing your best to protect a group of people practicing their right to religion. And to those who are injured as a result, please know that when we pray for healing for this community, we also pray for you. To the man who committed a horrendous sin, I will not type your name, and your name will never come across my lips. I will not give you the satisfaction of knowing that you are remembered. But I do want you to know that although your actions were intended to scare us and make us weak, it has done the opposite. We are strong in the wake of this attack. We will remember those whom you murdered, and we will not hide from our Jewish identities. To the Jewish community, in this deeply sad time, we need to be strong. For hundreds of years, the pain of loss has wounded and strengthened us, and it is time for us to have courage again. Have courage to go to synagogue on Shabbat. Have courage to wear your kippah. Have courage to be a Jewish person proudly and publicly. We have never hidden ourselves in the face of hate, and we should not do it again. I am proud to be Jewish, and I hope that you are too. To my non-Jewish community, we know that you too are deeply affected by the situation. Our Malden community is diverse. We know that our diversity does not stop us from getting along. Thank you for standing with us. Thank you for sharing our desire to live in a peaceful world where people get along. Thank you for being our friends. To all our police, fire, ambulance, military, and veterans, thanks for always being there for our community and for our country.
And that's who we really have to get, the youth. The next generation, 2 generations behind me. I tried my best. My generation did. It worked for a while, but not forever, unfortunately. It is now my pleasure to introduce Pastor Emily Hamilton, who is pastor of the First Lutheran Church.
Shabbat Shalom. Greetings to you from First Lutheran Church in Malden and the Lutheran Christian tradition to which we belong. My congregants and I are here to mourn the loss of 11 of our Jewish siblings, those members at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh who were murdered for their faith, for worshiping God and for serving their immigrant neighbors. It breaks our hearts to lose these children of God to such an evil act. And honestly, it's hard to find the right words for a gathering like this. Everyone who's here already knows all too well that anti-Semitism is thriving in this world. And this anti-Jewish bias and violence flies in the face of what we believe in. Any ideology that results in shooting children of God for their religion, their race, their gender, their sexual orientation is not from God. And I'm here to publicly reject such ideologies as heresy, because in our tradition we believe that God is love. We are bound together by that love of God. And because of that love, we stand in solidarity with our Jewish neighbors in Malden. We will pray with you and for you, and we will stand against anti-Semitism in our own churches, in the schools, and in our city. And we will work alongside you to make the love of God visible to people of every tradition. And if it's all right with you, I'd like to share a short word of prayer. God, our refuge and our strength, you have bound us together in a common life. Do not let us fail in the face of these events. Uphold us with your love. Give us the strength we need. Help us in our confusion and guide our actions. Heal the hurt, console the bereaved and afflicted, protect the innocent and the helpless, and deliver all your children from danger into the light of justice and peace. Amen.
Amen. I'd like to call on Reverend Otto O'Connor, the minister of the First Parish Church.
Thank you so much for inviting me here this morning. I was asked to share a reading, so I'd like to share this poem by the Unitarian Universalist minister, the Reverend Ann Barker, and this is called When the Unimaginable Happened. When we heard the news, saw the wreckage, felt the paralyzing blow, our hearts broke open and spilled out into our hands. And there we were, watching our love seep between our fingers, watching our fragile love pour out all over us, watching our love seem to slip away. When the unimaginable happened, the ache that we felt as if love was being lost was the ache of love's despairing truth. This is the love that no one chooses, the loss so out of order, so profound, the love we did not even want to know. And yet the source of this despair, the reason our hearts cleave and flow, is because they know fullness. This is the love of truth and beauty, love that spans the web of being, uniting each of us within its timeless form. When we heard the news, our hearts broke open, spilled into our hands, and then we stared at love, lamenting, what am I to do with this? And with these raw and tender yearnings, we will beat after precious beat, seek wholeness once again. It will take time to find balance, to grieve if we will make room. Remember, friends, this is the right thing, this ache within our deepest beings. Know that all things are normal to feel, disrupted, empty, and undone. Our hearts broke open, and the love that is still true draws us once again together, story by story, into places of tender knowing, remembering to restore us, piece by broken piece. This is the love that runs between us, binds us, each to our collective core. We grieve, and march, and weep, and sing. And through the pain, but not despite it, love will repair us, not the same, but stronger in some places. Honoring memories, living out our lives' potential in the shadow of this trespass, in the warmth of one another, in the light of what restored we will become. And so I offer these words and I share that we from the Unitarian Universalist tradition at the First Parish in Malden are moved by love and justice and compassion, and we vow to speak out and to be in solidarity and to show up against anti-Semitism and white supremacy and racism in our world. And we recognize the need for us to examine in our own selves and in our tradition the ways in which we have contributed to this pain and this hate and have allowed this violence and oppression to occur. And so we send along our love and our prayers for collective healing to this community. So blessed be, and amen.
Amen. Our next speakers will be Fern and Ginny Remedy.
Brothers and sisters, my name is Fern Remedy Brown. I speak to you as a Malden resident, as a Jew, and as a daughter of a Holocaust survivor. I'm also a member of Malden Community Organizing for Racial Equity, which is dedicated to taking steps to undo racism in our community. I am a lesbian and the mother of a child of mixed race and another who is an indigenous immigrant. I have a wife of 35 years. I have many reasons to have fear in this political climate. After the worst massacre against Jews on US soil, many are afraid. This reminds many of us of Germany in the 1930s. The Holocaust inspired fear in the hearts of Jews, even those who were not directly affected. This blot on history has affected us all. It is an understandable response to retract within. To counteract the evil, however, seek to both find peace within as well as to reach out. Continue to pray. Seek opportunities to connect with one another. Practice saying, "Friend, tell me your story." Seek to join in solidarity with others who have been harmed in similar ways. We need to remember history of a similar massacre at a church in Charlestown, South Carolina 3.5 years ago, when a white supremacist murdered 9 African Americans during a prayer service at the Emmanuel African Methodist Episcopal Church. We remember the events in Charlottesville, Virginia, 1.5 years ago, when a white nationalist rally incited violence that led to the death of an activist and the injury of others. These incidents, and many more, have been allowed and provoked by our current political climate. To counter the violence that would threaten to overwhelm us, to thwart our efforts to live our lives fully, we cannot give way to fear. We must see past it. We must see one another, reach out, and stand in solidarity. We must stand up against violence against any one of us. We must stand up when we see injustice. We must forge forward against those who would have us or our brothers and sisters obliterated. We must not accept or turn a blind eye towards the provocation of hatred against those who are different from us. For beneath the hatred is fear, and the opposite of fear is both faith and connection. We must protect one another. We must continue to support the oppressed and the refugee. Our faith in standing up for what is right is what will see us through. And this is what will give us strength. Love always conquers hate. This is what gives us hope. Sisters and brothers, may our voices be heard together as we speak out against violence. As the prophet Micah tells us, act justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God. Let us energize our resolve to bring a new dawn of justice and understanding. Thank you.
I would like to introduce the chairman of the Malden Democratic City Committee, Amanda Smith, our next speaker.
Good morning. I would just like to very briefly say a few words. First, a sincere thank you to this congregation for welcoming all of us here this morning and for this important service and giving us all the opportunity to be together, to listen and to speak. Gatherings like this are one, not the only, but one critical way that we can maintain hope in the face of what is going on in our country and our society, including a rise in hate crimes and direct threats to democracy. This may feel like it's the first time this has ever happened in our country, but it's not, unfortunately. There have been versions of this throughout our history, and I think we can look to our history to see how the people during those times weathered those times and what is a way that we can all go forward together. Every generation, from our founding to now, is called upon to work to preserve and protect democracy. And we are not immune from that task, regardless of ideology, our party, or our beliefs. Democracy is the best, though wildly imperfect, systems for managing our society and making sure that every one of us has a voice. But doing that work to protect democracy can feel overwhelming, and I think many of us at this time do feel overwhelmed. And it's very easy to lose hope, especially when you're tired. So how do we hang on to hope, and thus how do we hang on to democracy? Hope is critical to democracy and social change. So many of our leaders throughout our history have said just that and reminded us of it. I'm sure all of us think of names of great leaders we admire who have emphasized that truth. One way of husbanding hope is to be in communities like this, communities of faith. It is not a surprise, not an accident, that in our own history, the Black church was so central to the sustaining and success of the civil rights movement. And I think those of us who wonder how can we get through this time, I find that to be an incredibly inspiring and very helpful example, but there are many others. I would also offer, as someone who sees herself as a community organizer at heart, that community organizing is one other way that we can maintain hope and also preserve our democracy. Working together for something bigger than oneself is, I think, one of the things in life that sustains us the most. Sharing stories, listening, really listening, but also inspiring others to feel hope and to feel their own power. And this is central because there is so much in our society, media, leaders, pick a topic, that works overtime to make all of us feel powerless on purpose. And we're feeling that now. So working against that, I think, is one of our chief jobs. But each of us in our own way can find ways to do that. There are so many ways to participate in community organizing, whether it's partisan or not, and all are valuable and sustaining and at heart empowering. So I would just encourage all of us to think in our own lives ways that we can not only come together with like-minded people, whether it's a faith community or other communities, to feel that sustenance, to feel that empowerment, but also think beyond our own selves, beyond our own communities, how we can bring that sense of hope and empowerment to others here in Malden and beyond, because I really think that is the answer to how we affect change. So thank you again for welcoming all of us, and thank you for giving us a chance to listen and to speak. Thank you.
I've been remiss, there is someone very important in the audience that I haven't introduced, and that is our former rabbi, David Kudian. Thank you so much for coming. And now it's time for the cantorial break with Phyllis Worland.
No, I sent Paula this song and she said, oh, you have to do this because it made her cry. That's the 60s boy.
I said, what doesn't?
This is a song that everyone can sing along. If I played guitar, it would have been even better, but I don't. So the words are really easy. First, can you say yada-da-da-da-da-da-da-da? Of course you can. The Hebrew is Olam Chesed Yibaneh. And the English you'll catch on because it's repetitive. So let's all go. Yada-da-da-da, yada-da-da. Olam Chesed Yibaneh. Yada-da-da-da, yada-da-da. Olam is the world. Chesed is love, respect, many different words. Yibaneh is build. This is, I will build this world from love. Olam chesed yibaneh, yada-da-da-da, yada-da-da. Olam chesed yibaneh, yada-da-da-da, yada-da-da. Olam chesed yibaneh, yada-da-da-da, yada-da-da. I will Community singing is very important. Thank you.
Now I'd like to introduce the person without whom I could have done anything this week. Karen Hayes, the Director of Human Services and Community Outreach.
So, thank you, and I'm going to have to admit that I was not prepared to say anything today. When Maria pointed out that she saw my name on the program, I was a little in a panic. What could I possibly say that hasn't been already said before? So what I'm here to say is thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you from the Malden community. I'm so grateful when Mayor Christensen reached out to me and asked me if I could help in planning this and put me in contact with Paula. It was my honor to do everything that I could, and I'm, again, just so grateful to be here and thankful for our community. Thank you.
It's my pleasure now to call upon Nicole Monsalem from the Malden Majid.
Thank you everyone for being here today. And I'm a little surprised to be up here with all of you. But I think this is a beautiful experience. And so many times in my life I have learned that the light shines brightest in the darkness. We come out of tragedy, but out of tragedy we build together. We rise together. And Malden is one of the most diverse communities, not just in Massachusetts, but the entire nation. And coming here and moving here and being part of this community, I have realized that we are all part of a continuum. That as one faith, one ethnicity, one culture grabs root here and calls Malden its home, that we all become part of that fabric together. And unfortunately, we find ourselves in times, yet again, where people come from the outside and they pick at that fabric and they do their best to unravel it so that we lose sight of the connections that bind us together. Neighbor, teacher, friend, brothers and sisters in faith. We can't lose sight of these bonds. We can't lose sight of the common goals that we have for each other, and that we are all sons and daughters, children of the one who made us all. And so when one of us hurts, we all hurt. But we will heal together. And we are here for you. And thank you so much for opening your doors and allowing us to share with you this grief and this burden, because we will stand with you and we will make this right together.
Where we start is when children are young. You can't teach a 25-year-old to change the views that that person has had for 25 years. So we have to make sure that in our homes and in our schools, we're letting children know racism is bad, name-calling is bad, bullying is bad, stereotyping, that's the worst. Then, last but not least, our cantorial soloist, Phyllis. Come on, they all know you now.
Paula Sack, our president and former 60s flower child, wanted to make sure that we ended on a positive note. And again, I don't have the music, but I think most of you probably know it. And it's called Let There Be Peace on Earth, and Let It Begin With Me. Who knows it? Who sang it at Lincoln in the Boys Glee Club in 7th grade? Not me. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, a peace that was meant to be, with God as our creator, family all are we. Let me walk with my brother in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be our solemn vow, to take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Thank you.
I know some people may think that was a little hokey, but that's always been one of my favorites, and something that I've always lived by. To bring peace to earth, to my family, to my home, to my environment, to the people I work with, the people I see on the train. Not that I take the tea very much, but when I do, I say hi. All right, now I'm going to turn it over to our sexton, Wayne Friedman, who will recite the Kiddush, and then you absolutely have to come into the library in the back there for food.
We're going to give a blessing over the wine first, then the bread, and as Paula said, bon appetit back Please join us in the library for the food.
Thank you all for coming, and I hope to see you again in fellowship soon.